Good afternoon, and welcome to this show. My name is Michael Cross. I'm a instructor of psychology, international relations, and international finance. And again, welcome to my YouTube channel. By the way, I would encourage you to subscribe. Now you just go down there, click on the subscribe, and also click on the bell, because YouTube kind of limits the number of people on your subscription list who will see when new videos come up. And by the way, just a little plug, if you're into science fiction or serial killer type drama, check out the link I'm going to put in the comment section later on some of my works in those areas. And yes, they're very much involved with psychology and even biology for that matter. Speaking of which, I wanted to discuss a rather controversial issue that's been thrown around a lot in recent years, and that is the concept of, are people born criminal? And you see headlines, criminal genes, or should we test children for criminal behavior, and so forth. Now, I would caution people on that, because first of all, I would have to say, many of the things we consider criminal are society-based. Okay? What's criminal and what's socially acceptable, for instance, in ancient Viking culture, would be far different than what's acceptable in our culture today. And some of the things that would be criminal in today's culture would have been totally acceptable in their culture, and vice versa. So, and you can see this in in all cultures. There's something that you could do in the United States that would get you in trouble in China or in India, but something that you could do there that could get you in trouble in the United States. So that's a precaution there. However, I think that there is something to be said for the idea that some people may be more prone to breaking those social norms within their particular society. Okay? There have been genes, for instance, the warrior gene, which is found in about 1/3 of men, may be associated with, I'm not going to go into the whole dopamine levels and feedback rate mechanisms that are involved in that. But some people tend to get angry and stay angry longer and need some sort of release for that. And, well, that could lead to, one of two things. One is those men might be more prone to do things that are socially unacceptable, and especially if it includes violence. Or they might actually be able to divert that particular mindset into being very competitive in sports, politics, or business. It just depends on how they divert it. But you may have other guys who they don't have that gene and are therefore not as competitive, but also would be not as prone to do things that would upset the social norms of their particular society. They'd be more conformist, more docile, and so forth. Now, another trait that could be thrown in there is testosterone. More testosterone leads to, I'm not going to say testosterone itself makes you aggressive. It just means that you're on a heightened level of awareness. And it will make you more competitive, just like what I was talking about with the warrior gene. Now, I often joke, it's not really joking. You can see how much testosterone was in your system when you were very young. And you just look at your hand. If your ring finger is long in reference to your index finger, that means you had a higher level of testosterone. Men with that trait tend to be much more aggressive in business. They tend to, from what I understand, get into arguments easier, tend to be more fertile, Uh, and in regards to women with that trait, meaning they had more testosterone when they were younger, they tend to be more into competitive sports, and they tend to do better when they do compete. They tend to win more. So that's obviously, hormone levels are obviously going to be associated with aggressiveness, and aggressiveness can be associated with crime. The person who just sits back and is going to be very like, okay, I'm not going to do anything. Someone's pushing my buttons, versus someone else who will do something and they will explode. Okay, so hormones can be involved in that. Other things can be what we've talked about in previous videos: psychopathy and narcissism and so forth. But I'm just going to center on psychopathy. People, psychopathy is something that is something you're born with. It will determine how you empathize with others. A psychopath has very low empathy. And I use this analogy many times. A psychopath, it's kind of like you're looking for Wi-Fi. You're at an airport and you got the Wi-Fi, and it's only on the first bar. Well, your internet connection's not going to be so great. But if it's on the fifth bar, then it's going to be really good internet connection. The psychopath is the person who's on the first bar when it comes to empathy. They don't feel guilt. And I do not feel that this is completely an environmental thing. The environment can obviously influence the direction it takes, just like with the warrior gene. A person that's born with psychopathic traits will obviously be more competitive, less compliant with society, less conformist. Also means they're going to be more creative. They're going to think outside the box. They're going to be really good at marketing, entertainment, politics, emergency room doctors and surgeons. Those kinds of occupations are things where pro-social psychopaths tend to be drawn. But the thing is, when it comes to crime, they're going to be more likely to commit crime because low empathy, low feelings of guilt, and at the same time, feeling bored very easily, and therefore more likely to do things that on impulse, and do things that other people would never dream of doing. So those are areas in which what you're born with can lead you to be more likely to commit crime. And, sure, living in a horrible society where crime is all around you and it's socially encouraged, if we're going to go by Bandura's social learning theory, of course anyone can commit bad acts and do criminal things. But some people are going to be more likely to take things further. And that could be things that are associated with your personality and therefore have their foundations in things like, at least in theory, the warrior gene, your hormone levels, whether you are born with high empathy or low empathy, and so forth. So really, it's up to the individual to channel those things. I'm not one of those people that thinks, oh my gosh, society made you do it. Because everyone has a free choice. Probably some of the greatest prophets in the Bible or wherever were psychopaths. Probably some of the greatest inventors were psychopaths. Some of the people who've done the most good for humanity. But also you also tend to find a large number of psychopaths in jail as well. Ironically, the people that made the laws were at least more likely than the general public to have those traits. So therefore, there is something to the biology of criminology that needs to be explored. Now, do I think that there should be some test to see if there's some way that we could, abort a child who, shows a certain genetic pattern? Absolutely not. Because again, like I said, you don't know whether you're aborting a serial killer or the next president of the United States. You don't know whether you'd be getting rid of someone who was going to be doing all manner of bad things, or someone that was going to be doing wonderful things. If they have the warrior gene, obviously we need people with those characteristics. So maybe there would be something if you could identify people at a young age and maybe teach them, intervene in that way, not with drugs, not with some sort of Clockwork Orange style of behavior modification. But the only thing I could, we have to accept that people are different. And, crimes will be committed by people who show incredible empathy, and crimes will be committed by people who show no empathy. But you will have more people showing up on the scale with the traits that I've talked about. All right, so that's something to consider. But again, nobody is actually born to go out and do bad. All right, there's where learning and psychology and society can make a difference. But it will not make the same difference with one person as it would with another. That's just the point that I'm trying to make. Anyway, well, you take care now. And again, subscribe to this channel. All right. Take care now. Bye.